accountability enforcement unit. We started suing cities, and we started working with cities, not just sticks, but also carrots in partnership. And we've unlocked thousands and thousands of units, and we've gotten a lot of cities and counties into compliance with what we refer to as the housing element. And the whole goal here is to do the same with homelessness. And I want to thank the legislature for just allowing us to set that up. And so that set the tone to your question of now how we approach things. But again, I'm just not interested as a taxpayer first, as a guy with 4 kids that wants to walk the streets, that wants to be in parks and playgrounds, someone who wants to see our communities revitalized and small businesses supported, to see the quality of life return in this state. I'm just not interested in this state continuing to fund programs that aren't fundamentally addressing that issue. If nothing else, let's get that issue addressed. And I'm proud. Look, Caltrans is not perfect. The state's not perfect. There's humility here. But we've numerically stress tested this. Over 16,000 encampments we've cleaned up at the state level. That's unprecedented in the state's history. We'll do more. We have to do more. We have a model ordinance that the state is using, and that's what now I want to see happen in other municipalities across California. Some have model ordinances that are unbelievably effective, and they actually enforce them. They've adopted them. Some, frankly, a little too extreme. You saw that even Fremont came back on a component part where they recognized they may have gone too far, and others are just nowhere damn to be found. Tulare County being a classic example in the case I gave you a moment ago.
Governor, the next question in the queue is from Aton Wallace. Aton, please unmute yourself.
Thanks, Izzy. Mr. Governor, thanks for taking the time. And actually, you answered some of my questions here already. You spoke pretty strongly about places you say have not lived up to your expectations. And you just mentioned Tulare County. So I was going to ask her to name names, number one. And number two, and I'm sorry to get a little bit off topic. Hopefully it's still on topic a little bit. You did mention the May Revise presentation upcoming this Wednesday. You've been actually very communicative at the Cal Fire presser a few weeks ago, and even before that at the lawsuit against Trump presser on the tariffs about the May Revise. You are concerned. Anything now that we're just a few days out, any kind of preview you can give us? Thank you so much.
No, I mean, look, we'll go through the details, and you'll have at me for a good hour plus. I'm sure there's a lot to share, a lot to communicate. But a little bit of previews. I'll start with some slides that level set on where this state has been. Not slides today related to this announcement, but on Wednesday related to the budget in terms of where we were going on the revenue side, and then the impacts of Liberation Day to this state quite directly. And you'll be able to see for yourself the impacts of those decisions. Of course, today we woke up to the news, or yesterday, that the tariffs went from 145 to 80, because that sounds about right, to, well, now 30, but there's a 90-day pause. And the markets are reacting, and maybe they overreact to going down, maybe they overreact going up. That sense of vulnerability because of uncertainty for small businesses out there is real. The uncertainty, obviously, around making long-term, let alone medium-term investments, has only been amplified by this tariff recklessness. And you're seeing the impacts in the ports of Long Beach and Oakland, not just LA and Long Beach. So we'll highlight a lot of that as a preview and give you a sense of what that means in terms of our budget outlook for the budget year, what it's meant in the current fiscal year, and then in the multi-year.
The next question we have in the queue is from Ethan Varian at the Mercury News. Ethan, please unmute yourself.
Hi, Governor. Thanks for taking our questions. I spoke with San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan this morning. He's made some national headlines himself for homelessness proposals. There's some polling showing his proposal to compel people into shelter may be popular with voters. He said he appreciated your proposal here with the model ordinance. And he said your model ordinance in a lot of ways follows San Jose's approach really closely and does a lot of what San Jose is already doing. I know other cities have adopted encampment ordinances after grants passed, but did you take any inspiration from what Mahan and San Jose are doing?
Well, we took inspiration from the collective work of people that wrote that amicus brief. As you know, we led with that amicus brief. California joined on the grants pass, and we put out an executive order. And if you go back to my executive order from last year, you'll see that framework that we advanced today. So look, I take inspiration from wherever we can find it. As a former mayor, I understand how challenging that job is, and I applaud any mayor for their willingness to lean in on this issue. And I'm grateful that there are a number of cities that have taken the state's support, that have done a very effective job with those investments and continue to want to do more and iterate in this space. And so I'm grateful that he and San Jose have adopted an ordinance and a framework around encampments, around notification, around personal belongings, about providing alternative strategies and opportunities to get people housed. We have the encampment resolution grants, as you know, $750 million the state has put out in that space. The dollars didn't exist in the past, also to help assist getting people off the streets and sidewalks in the first place. And I believe success leaves clues. And I think one of the good things about this state is mayors, cities large and small, share best practices. But we have to call out those that aren't even engaging in this conversation and somehow think it's someone else's responsibility, not just on homelessness, but on housing as well.
Governor, we'll have time for two more questions. The next two in the queue. The first one is from Janie Har with the Associated Press. Janie, please unmute yourself.
Hi, Governor. Thank you for taking our questions. So you've been telling local governments for years that they need to do more. And I'm wondering if you could give us an idea of, just what percentage of the state is dragging its feet on doing things to do with homelessness and housing. How many cities and counties have you moved since you have, started telling them that they are responsible and accountable for receiving some of the state money? Can you give us an idea of that?
We have one of the things that I've really come to enjoy, again, particularly, forgive me for being redundant, wearing my former hat as mayor, is spending time with mayors and comparing how their strategies and engaging with them in a collective group, talking about what's working, what's not, what they need, and what we need to do better going forward. I had a tough meeting, and this puts into context, I think, your question, and I'll get more specific in the response. It was a number of years ago. I rejected, and by the way, for the first time, we require strategies for the dollars the state provides with discretion. We require a plan in response, or in return rather, to those dollars being distributed. I received those plans and I rejected the plans. The mayors were not particularly pleased. We had a very large meeting. There were a number of press conferences, competing points of view about the merit of that approach. They came back with more ambition. We were very specific, to your question, in working with specific cities, counties, and what we refer to as COCs around areas where there was weakness and what we wanted to see in terms of improvements. And so we had a detailed engagement with those that we feel lacked ambition and weren't producing the kind of results, or weren't even proposing to produce the results moving forward. Those plans came back. They were significantly improved. And as a consequence, we began to improve our collaboration in this space. But I've also been very, very, very focused and very honest with my friends that are running these cities, large and small, that I wanted to see a renewed vigor and focus on what's happening on the streets, tents and encampments. It simply cannot continue. It cannot be a way of life, living out on the streets, in sidewalks, in what are almost become permanent structures, impeding foot traffic, impeding our ability for our kids to walk the streets in strollers, or seniors with disabilities and wheelchairs, even navigating their sidewalks. We cannot allow that to continue. And so last year, we dialed up the requirements as it relates to our plans further. We are in dialogue with the legislature to go even farther still. We created this homeless component into our housing enforcement wing, and we have been very explicit on expectations as it relates to encampments, not least of which in the announcement today, but announcements late last year. And I've also demonstrated a personal commitment to cleaning up these encampments, physically out there. Many of you have joined me at these encampments so we can walk our talk. I'm not just trying to preach and sell down this vision. I'm trying to support that vision and be accountable to it as well. So look, I just think you deserve, it's my humble opinion, more and better results. And I am doing all I can to use my formal authority as governor to work in partnership with the legislature to create new rules and criteria in relationship to that, but also moral suasion here. The humanity, it is not human to step over people in the sidewalks and streets. It's not human to allow people to live 3, 4, 5 years in encampments. It's not human to allow the status quo to continue. And so, again, moral and formal authority we're trying to exercise here.
The final question we'll have time for today is from Lindsay Holden with Politico. Lindsay, please unmute yourself.
Hi, Governor. I just wanted to ask, in terms of the model ordinance your office released today, it's kind of a two-part question. Why release that if there's not going to be any teeth in it to require governments to use it? And then also, are you setting up to use that as to attach that to HAP funding as a condition when you're negotiating with the legislature over that money? Is that why you're releasing it? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just not interested in the status quo. We want to see this model ordinance across the state of California. We want to see how quickly communities that have not adopted a local ordinance adopt it. We want to right size some of the other ordinances that may be outliers and make sure that we're all sort of organizing with some basic expectations. We want people to customize their strategies, but we want, yes, sort of implicate, I'm walking down the path of that second part of your question. We're also previewing expectations moving forward in terms of what we've been saying privately to cities and counties and our mayors, and to what now we're socializing much more publicly with much more, I think, with higher level of expectation. And I'll close on this because we'll have a chance to talk a little bit more broadly about all these component parts on Wednesday when the budget's released. There's just simply never been more support in more categories to actually produce the results that the taxpayers deserve. And so it's an expression of a deeper sense of clarity and I hope understanding that I'm trying to communicate between local government that ultimately is responsible for delivering these results and the state. That the state has done unprecedented work to have your back, and now it's time to produce unprecedented results. We've made progress. 0.45% unsheltered is basically flat, substantially better than we've seen in some time, but that is not good enough. We want to see real reduction in unsheltered homelessness in the state. This is a framework in the application of how to do it in a way that we think is responsible, that is in the spirit of what we were trying to achieve by addressing the barrier that was Boise Grants Pass and why we did the amicus brief, with all the supports that have come through these unprecedented investments in encampment resolution grants, that's above and beyond HAP, and now behavioral health, where we're flooding the zone with these large-scale regional projects, to the conservatorship reforms, again, Care Court, and all of the other unprecedented effort to have the backs of local government and leaders to address the issue that defines more anger and frustration with Californians than any other And that's what the hell is going on our streets and sidewalks. Thanks, everybody, for the opportunity to share this. And again, to the spirit that started this conversation on support, and particularly for those that are most vulnerable, humanizing mental health, humanizing, not criminalizing those with drug and alcohol addictions. This is a deeply meaningful day in the history of California's investment in this space. And I couldn't be more proud of the work that our team did in getting this done as quickly as they have. And now we're on to the next phase with local government, and we'll have their back as long as they have yours and they implement and get these permits done as quickly as they possibly can. Thanks, everybody.